everybody, this is Mrs. Wetzel
and Mrs. Murray,
and we are here with part 2 of iPad 101, everything you need to know before you receive your iPad. And part 1 focused on the basics. In part 2, we're going to focus on PBIS. Being respectful, being responsible, and being safe is going to be a big part in your success in working with the iPads in the classroom, and that's what we're going to focus on next.
How do I keep my iPad clean? There's a couple ways. You can get Windex wipes to clean your screen, or you can put Windex, a small amount of Windex on a cloth to clean the screen, but do not spray Windex directly onto the screen protector because it could seep through and then wreck your iPad. You also, to clean the black of your iPad, you're going to want to use Clorox wipes for that as well.
In addition to keeping your iPad clean, there's a lot of things that you want to do to keep your iPad safe. And particularly in the hallways here at RMS, you want to make sure you carry your iPad with 2 hands. Remember that we're going to have over 800 students walking through the congested hallways with their iPads. So whenever you're walking with your iPad, but particularly in our hallways, make sure you are carrying it with 2 hands.
Another tip for keeping your iPad clean is making sure that your hands are clean at all times and not sticky, not wet.
We're pretty sure that we don't even really have to share this with you, but liquids and iPads do not mix. Do not bring your iPad into the restroom with you at home. Do not eat dinner with your iPad at the table with you. And most importantly, if you bring a water bottle to school, do not put that water bottle and your iPad in your backpack together.
These iPads are mobile devices, so you will be carrying them everywhere with you. You have to keep in mind the temperatures outside. If you have your iPad with you and you're traveling in a vehicle, don't leave it out there if it's an extremely hot day. It's going to get over 95 degrees that day, or an extremely cold day, 32 or below. You want to make sure you bring those iPads in the house with you or into school with you at all times when the temperatures are extreme.
Make sure you keep your iPad secure at all times. While you're at school, this is either in your locker or with you. At home, it may be helpful to establish a home base. This should be a secure place in your home where your iPad will charge and be stored when it is not in use. Make sure you talk to your parent or guardian to establish a good place in your home for this home base.
What if there's a problem with my iPad? If you experience any issues with your iPad, it is your responsibility to report any loss, theft, damage, or equipment failure to the Media Center within 1 school day.
What happens if I damage my iPad? You are responsible for any and all damages to or loss of your iPad. Your parent or guardian has agreed to take financial responsibility for any accidental damage. After a first incident, your parent has agreed to pay $25. After a second incident, the cost increases to $50. A third incident will result in you and your parents paying the full replacement cost of the device, $285. In the student iPad agreement that you signed, you agreed to take good care of your iPad and its accessories. While accidents do happen, anything more than 1 incident will result in a serious conversation with Mrs. Carrier or with Mrs. Robinson.
Will anyone be monitoring how I use my iPad? Yes. The iPad is owned by Fraser Public Schools, and whatever is on your iPad is not private. iPad use is a privilege. Use of your iPad will be strictly monitored. This includes email, data on the iPad or server, internet use, camera use, etc. You should feel comfortable showing any or all of the content on your iPad to any Fraser Public School personnel at any time. Understand that the school district can collect and examine an iPad when a student is suspected of violating the district's policies, rules, and procedures.
Based on the last question, you know that someone from the district will be monitoring your iPad, or rather the entire tech department will be monitoring your iPad. But what you may be wondering is, how is it being monitored? What's important to know is that when you receive your iPad, you are going to be asked to register your iPad with the district management system, and we will step you through that process step by step when you receive it. When you go through this registration process, this will create something called profiles on your iPad, and these profiles are what allow the district to monitor your iPad. It is extremely important that these profiles are not touched. If you're not sure what one of the settings are or what something is on your iPad, your best bet is to leave it alone and ask questions before you do touch it. This also goes along with what you see in the student iPad agreement and what you signed. You are not to disassemble your iPad. Do not attempt to repair your own iPad. Do not damage, hack, or disrupt the security of your iPad. It all links into this monitoring process that is extremely important to the success of this project. You probably didn't realize it, but you agreed to a lot of things when you signed those forms. Is there anything else you should know? Bottom line, use good judgment when you are using your iPad. Do not use your iPad to send or receive messages that are inappropriate, offensive, controversial, sexist, racist, harassing in nature, or contain obscene or pornographic material. All of these are covered in the district's acceptable use policy. Do not use your iPad to intimidate or bully others.
I know that I signed an agreement and promised to abide by the procedures and rules for the acceptable use of the iPad. What happens if I break the terms of this agreement? As was previously mentioned, use of the iPad is a privilege. Violating this agreement may result in having your iPad or iTunes use suspended or revoked. Depending on the severity of the violation, you may find yourself in the main office facing disciplinary or legal action.
Do you get to take your iPad home? Yes, you do. Again, you must have the appropriate paperwork signed in order to take it home on the day you receive it.
What if my parents don't want me to bring my iPad home? What if I don't want to bring it home? If you or your parents decide that you don't want to bring your iPad home on a daily basis, you will be responsible for coming to the media center every morning before school starts to check your iPad out. At the end of every day, you will need to bring your iPad to the media center to check it back in. Leaving it in your locker is not an option.
What if my parents don't want me to have an iPad at all? We hope that every student at RMS will have an iPad to use. Your parent or legal guardian can decide that they don't want you to have an iPad if you are under 18. Prove to your parents that you deserve the privilege of an iPad with your respectful, responsible, and safe management of your iPad. Remember, actions speak louder than words.
The internet access at school is filtered. What about outside of school? Any connection outside of the school will not be filtered unless you are using the K9 Browser app, which is installed on your iPad. Do you have to use the K9 Browser outside of school? This is a conversation you need to have with your parents or guardian.
I'm 13 and I'm old enough to have an Apple ID. What if my parents don't want me to have one? If you are under 18 years old, your parent or legal guardian has the right to opt out of or revoke your student iTunes account and Apple ID. Having an Apple ID is a privilege. You can legally have an Apple ID when you're 13. This does not mean you are entitled to one.
My sister is 13 or older. Can't I just use her Apple ID? No. You must be 13 in order to manage the apps on your school iPad. Students under 13 cannot legally have an Apple ID.
Will there be rules about using my iPad while I'm in class? Of course there will be. Every teacher has the discretion to allow and regulate the use of your iPad in his or her classroom. While you are in school, you will be expected to use the iPad for educational reasons that are relevant to the classroom curriculum. You also want to look for posters that look like this with a red, yellow, green zone and what each of those means. This is going to also help you understand the role of the iPad in the classroom.
Unless your classroom teacher tells you otherwise, keep your iPad in silent mode.
You are expected to follow all copyright laws. Cite your sources for images and information appropriately, and give credit where credit is due.
It is expected that you will not use your iPad to cheat on assignments or tests.
What if my iPad battery dies during the school day? It is expected that you will take the responsibility of charging your iPad at home every evening. The battery should have no problem lasting for the entire school day if you come with a full charge. If you do not bring your iPad home, your iPad will be charged for you every evening in the Media Center.
What if I run out of memory on my iPad? Remember, this is an educational tool, so educational apps must come first. If you fill up your iPad, non-educational content such as music and/or games will have to go.
Are there any places in the building that I'm not allowed to have my iPad? Yes, there is. iPads cannot be brought into locker rooms, restrooms, or any private areas used for the purpose of changing clothes. Unless your PE teacher specifically asks you to bring your iPad with you to class, leave it in your locker during phys ed. The administration at RMS or any Fraser Public School has the right to prohibit, allow, and regulate the use of the iPad in other areas during the school day at their discretion.
Are there any rules that I should know about using the camera? Definitely. Listen closely. All pictures you take or videos that you film should be taken for educational reasons. If you take a picture or a video with another student or a staff member, it is your responsibility to make sure that he or she knows and is okay with being in that photo or video. Remember, your photo roll is not private.
Is there anything else besides my iPad that I'm expected to have with me? All students should have their own earbuds. If you don't already own a pair, you may want to consider purchasing earbuds with a built-in microphone. Earbuds, as you probably know, are relatively inexpensive. Though it is not required, you may want to consider purchasing a stylus. These are also inexpensive. Remember, Christmas is coming. Add these items to your Christmas list.
There's a lot of usernames and passwords that I'm trying to keep track of. Any advice? Yes, Mrs. Wetzel or myself will provide training to all students that will help you to document your usernames and passwords in a secure place.
Is there anything else I should know about passwords? There definitely is. Keep your usernames and passwords private. No one should be attempting to access, read, copy, or alter your private data. The opposite is also true. You should not intentionally allow others to use your usernames and password to access your private data, including your iTunes account.
I know I wasn't supposed to, but I shared my locker comm, and now I'm worried about my iPad being in my locker. Is there anything I can do about this? Yes, make sure you let the main office know that this has happened, and they will make sure that your combination is changed.
Are you allowed to set a passcode on your iPad? Not only are you allowed to, we encourage you to do so. Keep the passcode simple, keep it the 4-digit number, but that passcode will make sure that all of your information on your iPad is secure. Word of warning, you have to make sure you remember that 4-digit passcode. If you don't remember it, the only way to get into your iPad is to have it re-imaged, and we want to avoid that.
Can I loan my iPad out for someone else to use? No. You are responsible for your iPad and should know its whereabouts at all times. Does this mean you can't let your mom or dad use it when you're at home with them? Of course they can. Can you lend your iPad to your big brother or sister that's going up north for the weekend? No. Tell them to get their own.